Okay, so right now, millions of people are working harder than ever in the UK, and yet they're still absolutely broke. Basically, you get paid, the money simply disappears, and then you're just waiting for the next payday, or you're borrowing to see yourself through, friends, family, work colleagues, payday loan companies, whatever it might be. That cycle isn't just about money, it's basically about control. So today, I want to show you why this trap exists, also how it's been designed to keep you stuck, and most importantly, I want to show you how you can actually escape it. So this isn't fantasy. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything, just the facts. So I guess the first thing we need to do is to explain the cycle. So let's start with the cycle itself. You wake up, you go to work, you get your wages within days. Things like rent, bills, food, shopping, sundries, whatever it might be, it means that it's all gone. Then you're counting down the days until your next paycheck. And stop me if I'm wrong, I'm sure that we've all been there. I've been there myself many times, certainly through my 20s and also into my 30s. I was literally living paycheck to paycheck for the greater part of my existence. And this wasn't just bad money management, it was systemic. And I couldn't see it back then, but I do now. Because wages haven't kept up with inflation for decades, not just since COVID, the cost of essentials, things like rent, food, energy, it's all been climbing way faster than income. And it's driven by corporate greed, mostly. So even if you work full time, even if you've been getting pay rises, you're not moving forward. You are, in fact, standing still at best. At worst, you're going backwards. And that's the trap. So we need to look at why it's been designed this way. And this is sadly the part that nobody likes to admit and nobody wants to talk about. This cycle isn't an accident. It benefits someone. And you need to think about that. Think about it clearly. You're always broke. So you need credit cards, you need overdrafts, you need loans. So banks make billions, billions with a B, off interest and off late fees. Companies, they profit because you're desperate for the cheapest deal, or you're locked into and hooked into subscription models that simply feed more debt. And also, obviously, you get used to a certain level of lifestyle, which means that you feel perhaps that you're going without if you don't have your Netflix subscription each month or your Amazon Prime or whatever it might be. So there's a psychological trap to it as well as a money trap. And even governments benefit because stressed people, they don't rebel. They're good little eggs and they comply. And that's what they want. The system works best when you're too tired, too broke, and you just can't be bothered to question it. So that isn't a conspiracy theory. That is economics. That's just simply cold hard facts. Beyond that, there is also a psychological trap, and I mentioned this a second ago. It's not only about money, it is about psychology. When you live paycheck to paycheck, your brain, it shifts into survival mode. So every decision that you make is short term. You think to yourself, can I make it through the day? Can I make it through the week? Can I pay this bill today, that bill tomorrow? And then payday comes, and for a moment, a brief moment, just a moment, you feel relief, almost like a dopamine hit. And that relief, that keeps you hooked. And the companies know it. They basically market products to you right when you're most vulnerable. Payday loans. So these will typically come through on your Google ads, on your Facebook feed. They'll come through towards the end of the working month. Larger items, things like electronics and sofas and holidays, they're likely to come just after the end of the month when you've been paid. And things like buy now, pay later, even payday weekend sales, they're all triggered at certain times. It's part of the trap. People don't see this. It's easier to see it when you're not in it and you're looking in than it is when you're in it and you're looking out, if that makes sense. So I guess the big question is, how can you escape? How can you escape the trap? Now, here's the good news. The cycle absolutely can be broken. I've done it myself. You can't break it overnight. You can't break it without effort, but you can do it step by step. So the first thing you need to do is to build a buffer. I've spoken about this before and I stick by it. You need to build a buffer, an emergency fund, even if it's just 50 quid, 100 quid, 200 quid. Put it in a separate bank account that you don't touch, that you don't even think about. That buffer is the first crack in the wall. And there are going to be lots of these coming up. So the next thing that you can do is to cut the invisible leaks. Cut things like subscriptions that you don't use, direct debits that you've forgotten about, bank fees that you might never have noticed, late payment charges that can be avoided by literally being a bit more organized. Those small leaks, they will drain much more than you think. Another thing that you can do is to build skills that make you money outside of your bog standard wage, outside of your PAYE, whether it's freelancing, whether it's learning a trade, which is pretty much AI proof at the moment, even reselling or arbitrage, whatever it is, one extra form of income can be massive and it can change everything. It really can. Even £50 a week, when totted up over the year, can be life-changing for some families. So the next thing that you need to do, and this is the tough one for most people, you need to think long-term. That's the hardest part. The hardest part is, I guess, coming from a position when you're broke. The future feels impossible, but long-term thinking is absolutely a weapon that breaks the survival mode that you've been put into. It's the hammer that brings down the wall. So these aren't glamorous solutions, not by any stretch. And like I say, I've done these myself. I've been trapped and I am still finding my way out of it to a better place, but I have to a degree found my way out of it by taking on private clients around my 9-to-5 job. So these methods, they're not especially glamorous. They're not pretty. They do require effort. No one's going to hand this to you on a platter and do it for you, but they absolutely do work. The part I really want you to listen to, and this is that when more people break free from these traps, the whole system starts to shake. Because the truth is, the survival economy, it only works when you stay stuck in it. So don't just keep running to payday. Don't think of payday as being the milestone for your month that you need to get to. That's the trap. That's you in a survival mindset. You deserve more than just survival. So do remember to like, follow, subscribe, ring the bell, all that jazz, support the channel, and yeah, there'll be another one tomorrow. Goldman, peace out.